Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to Merlin Models. I'm Justin, and today we're going to be building the Ralph McQuarrie Concept X Wing. In this video, we're not going to be doing a full assembly. We're going to be prepping it for paint because it's going to be much easier to paint and grouping of pieces. So, and then I'll show you I'll do some dry fitting to show you how they will fit together for final assembly. So you'll kind of get the gist on how it's going to go together. But we won't actually be putting it together in this video. It'll only be one episode because it's a pretty easy build. It's not as complicated as the blockade runner. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. So let's go ahead and get this unboxed. I'll show you what all is inside it. And then I'll show you what all tools you're going to need after that. Let's go ahead and start this unboxing. All right, so as you can see, you get your packing list. This has all the different pieces that come in the kit. So I'll move that off to the side. And then let's check this thing out. Oh, baby. All right. So as you can see, first front and center, the first thing we have is your X Wing collectible coin. So this is the case it comes with, and we went with a very gorgeous copper color for this one. So we'll put this off to the side. This is going to be the holder for your pole that goes in your base. We have our canopy. This looks absolutely gorgeous. Next we have our mechanism assembly for the wings. So this will be put together so that way all the wings will be attached into this. So we'll put that to the side. Here are your wing spars. These are all made out of high quality ABS, so you don't have to worry about them breaking. They are very tough. Next we have the back. So here is the back of the gorgeous X-Wing. Man, that turned out great. All right. Then we have, let's go ahead and get our engines out. So these are the engines. So there should be 4 of these in your kit. There's 1. Here's 2. Have 3. And the last one, 4. Next we have our bag of LED diffusers. So these are clear, but if you want, you can also scuff them up to make it so it's a little bit more diffused light. Next we have the core block. This is for the mechanism to allow it to attach to the lower hull. Ooh, now we have our gorgeous crystal clear cockpit. So as you can see, that looks absolutely amazing. So we went with clear, so in case you guys wanted to light this, you can. I think for mine, I may end up doing what Chris did from Rogue One 6 and do some actual fiber optics. But as you can see, it is gorgeous. Move over here. These are going to be our gun barrel bases. So you should have 4 of these for each gun barrel. There we go. There's all 4. And then last but not least, on the top, we have our wings. So the wings have the covers attached to them. So and then you'll see on the inside which ones are labeled what. So for now, we'll just kind of keep these together and we'll put them off to the side. There's 1 wing, 2 wings, 3 wings, and the last wing. These all turned out fantastic. All these panel lines look super crisp and clear. Love it. All right, let's move on to the bottom section. All right, so in the bottom section here, you'll see you have the main fuselage. So here is the lower fuselage. That turned out amazing. Super clear, crisp lines. Awesome. And you got your hole for your 1/4-20 insert. And then we added an extra hole behind it for you to run your wires out. All right, you're gonna have a little small box. And in this small box is actually the top of your pole mount. So this will allow you to angle the X-Wing however you want. So, and this is just gonna thread into the pole. Speaking of the pole, here it is. So this is what's gonna stick out from your base. So very, very nice. And then we have our LEDs. If you plan on using the Arduino in the kit, you're going to have to cut the resistors off, and then we're going to have to rewire them. They are made for 12 volt for people that just want to just plug the power in, so you just have a glowing engine. Next we have our gun barrels. So these are our nice aluminum machined gun barrels. And so there's one. We have 1, 2. So unwrap this guy. 3. And the 4th one. Oh yeah, those are great. Next we have our upper fuselage. So this is the main fuselage that is for the front half of the ship. Oh yeah, really clean. Gorgeous. All right, next we have our lower engine cover, or intake, I guess you would call it. So this is going to be the lower engine, because so the difference between the tail between the lower engine and the upper engines. So here's the upper engine. The upper engines that are going to be on the top, we're going to have this cover piece right here with the little squigglies. So that's how you can tell between the two, which one's an upper and which one's a lower. So you should have 2 of each. There's another upper. And we have another lower. So good to go on those. Next we have our hardware. So this is going to be the wing nut and the washer for the wing mechanism. Then here's your 1/4-20 insert. Over here we have our engine detail pieces for the inside of the engines. Next, we have our wire for the Arduino. And we have our Arduino right here. So like I said, you don't have to use this. You can plug it all in just by running the wires down to your base, because it's made for 12 volts. But if you do want to do it, we gave you an Arduino to do any kind of special lighting you want to do on either the cockpit or the engines. If you want to use it, it's fine. If you don't, then don't worry about it. Save for another project. Next, we have our small pieces. So in the small pieces, we have our gap covers. It looks like we have our pilot, the gun wing tip pieces, detail pieces. There's the pilot's head. And I see the joystick right here. So this is a bag of small pieces. Next baggie we have is another piece for the main wing assembly for the mechanism. We have our pilot seat, and we have our little R2 unit. All right. Next we have the main hull for the back. This is the back half of the hull. So this is where your R2 unit goes, and this is going to kind of cover over the wing mechanism assembly. And over here, this is the bolt that holds the whole wing mechanism assembly together. And this box right here, this is going to be your power supply. And we included different types of connectors depending on where you are in the world. You have your own plug, so you don't have to get a special plug for it, or an adapter. Last but not least, we have our base. So if you're one of our original supporters, this is going to be your very nice plaque that we included for you. And then here is your base. So nice, clean, simple base. And so I got the hole cut out for the pole. You got your power button, and you have your daisy chain. So if you want to link multiple bases together, you can just daisy chain them together. So, all right, there we go. All right, that's it for what's in the box. Let's go ahead and I'll show you what all tools you're going to need. So first of all, you're going to need your soldering iron. You're going to need your heat gun. Next, you're going to need some extra wire just in case. I always like to have extra just in case I end up being overzealous with the wire that comes with the kit. I'm going to need your heat shrink, some wire strippers, your nips or wire cutters, Gonna need your solder. You're gonna need a Phillips head screwdriver, a 3.5 millimeter drill bit, a drill or electric drill. You're gonna need a pencil, a ruler, some tweezers, a small file just in case you need to do any adjustments, a sanding block just in case you need to do any adjustments. I'm using a 100 grit just because it seems to work the best. A little mini vise, some stir stick, and some really cheap brushes to be able to apply your glue with. Your 2 parts of 5-bended epoxy. Some Starbond CA glue. I prefer the medium thick. Your accelerator for your CA glue. And I'm also getting some of this uncured just in case I need to make any adjustments. It's good to have. And then some extra nipples for your glue. All right, now that we have all of our wonderful tools, let's go ahead and start building this thing. All right, guys, let's go ahead and build these engines. So what you're gonna need is your little engines themselves. You're gonna need your intakes, your blue LEDs, your wire. I ended up getting a 1/8 and 3/32 heat shrink. You need your diffusers, the detail for the engines themselves that go on the inside of here. And then I wanted to let you guys know, so this big LED is a 10 mil LED with, there's also a resistor in here. So this is if you want to light up your cockpit just with a single LED, like you can glue it honestly into the inside interior right here. So and then paint this like whatever color you want, like a solid color, and then just scratch off all the buttons you want. So this should help kind of illuminate that. But we included this. You don't have to use it if you don't want to, if you plan on doing what I'm doing, which is the fiber optics. But it's here if you need it. So I'm going to put this off to the side because I won't be using it. So the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to take all of your LEDs. And since I want to run an Arduino, I'm going to need to go ahead and cut off the resistor on this guy. So it's very simple. Just take your snips, cut the top of the resistor and the bottom resistor, and you'll be left like this little nub right here. But anyways, and then we're going to just resolder this guy onto the nub. So that'll allow for this to work with the Arduino. Get me some flux. A little bit of solder. Doesn't take much, just a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead, just touch this to this. As you can see, it's all set. So now what you do is grab your heat shrink. I'm only going to use maybe, I don't know, a centimeter or so. Should be plenty. I'm using a small, one of my smaller heat shrinks for this part. And then just slide it on up like this. Ta-da. Then take your heat gun. And that's it. So not too bad. Very fast. Only took a few, like, I don't know, a couple of seconds. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to the rest of these guys, and I'll be right back. All right, guys, we got all the resistors taken off. So let's go ahead and start adding them into our diffusers. So it's really simple. All you need is literally just a drop of glue. It doesn't take much. Put a drop of glue in all the holes. Doesn't take much, just a little bit to kind of fill the whole thing. And then I'm going to just stick them in just like that. So all 3, doesn't matter what you want, like that. And once I get them all positioned nice and flat in there, take my accelerant. All right, and there you go. So I'm going to do that to all the rest of these, and I'll see you guys in a second. Now that we got all the pigtails done, let's go ahead, and what we're going to do is take the tips of these right here, and we're going to glue in our little detail pieces. So as you can see, there's little relief pieces. So there's like little relief slots in the piece, and then those will correspond with this piece. So basically find where you have the big 2 slots side by side. which may be a little hard to see. And then that's how you're going to align the thicker piece right here into that. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my tweezers so I can hold this a little bit better. I'm going to add a little bit of glue around, just around the edges of all these little pieces, and then I'm just going to slide it in. So let's go ahead and add our glue. It's right here on the base. It doesn't require much. It's like literally a drop each. I mean, honestly, you don't have to do. I'm just going to brush them gently to the droplet. All right. And then line up your holes. And you can even use the back to kind of help you see how far you need to go. Oh, and what I would do on these is, so if you look at these before you continue on, so something I didn't mention. So you see one side is completely flat and one side has a little bit of a bump out. You want the bump out facing outwards. So be sure you do that. Otherwise it won't sit flush. Use accelerant on it, and that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing to the other ones. Now that we've got all of our pieces in, let's go ahead and add our diffusers. So basically they're just going to get glued in just like that. So very simple. I'm just going to add a little ring of glue around the tip right here, or around the actual ring itself. So just add a little bit on there. Doesn't take too much, and then maybe a little bit on the outside of this outer part. All right. Get it in there. It's all nice and even, and then I'm going to spray. All right, there we go. There's one down. So let's do it to the others. All of our engine tips are done. So now for this next part, let's go ahead and what we're going to do, so you can see these will fit in there like that, but there's way too much coming off of it. So what we want to do is reduce this down to just 2 wires, and then we'll have the 2 wires coming out of the hole. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take about, I don't know, an inch or so, maybe it's about an inch coming off the back right here, and we're going to cut that off. Not that much. Then keep 2 of your red and black wires right here. So I'm going to move these off to the side. Don't need them. And then now what we need to do is we are going to just like that, combine our positives and our negatives together. Make sure you give yourself just enough room to where you can twist them, because we're going to solder them together here first. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to take our flux. I'm going to flux all these together real quick. So I didn't give myself enough room, but it's okay. I can work with it. Just need to get them touching enough. Just like that. So I'll do one at a time since I didn't give myself enough room. All right, so rub some flux on there. I'm going to get some solder threads. All right, that one's done. Let's move on to the positive side. I'll do the same thing. I'll twist these all together. And some flux. And some solder. And just like that, those are done. All right, now we're going to take our 2 pigtails and then solder these onto here. I'm going to pre-solder them. So you're going to add a little bit of flux. Some flux, and then we're going to add some solder. Just makes it easier putting them together if you pre-solder your wires. All right, let's do our positives first. Just like that. Let's do our negatives now. Just like that. All right. And then now what you want to do is grab your 1/8 heat shrink. I'm going to use this to kind of cover these wires. So I'm giving myself about an inch or so, just to make sure I have enough to cover these completely. Just like that. All right, once you get them covered, hit them with the heat shrink, or the heat gun. All right, and that is one pigtail down. So now, as you can see, you can now feed your 2 wires through the hole, just like that. You have one completed engine. So you got your peg on the top right here, and you're gonna have your little hole, like the piece that has the hole side on it for the detail piece. That'll also be kind of in line with that. So all right, so then now I'm going to add a little bit of glue. There we go. One completed engine. So what I would do is, if you have an extra battery, just test your wires just to make sure you didn't, like, the solder is not messed up, or you put enough solder. So have something that allows you to test your connection, which is usually just a AA battery, work just fine to see if it glows or not. So, all right, I'm going to do the same thing to all the other engines, and I'll see you guys in a second. And all right, there we go. There's all the engines done. So as you can see, we got our diffusers with the LEDs in it, with the inside detail piece, with our pigtail coming out the back. All right, and now really all we have to do is just add these to the back of the engines right here. So the intake parts. So really all it is, so you want to feed your pigtails through the back part of the intake. So you feed them through here, and then you want to put your peg is going to be on the bottom. So as you can see with the way I'm lining this up here, it's just going to fit in just like that. So you'll have a nice, really clean edge, and the engines themselves are going to stick up just like that. So now that we have that in there, so all it is just we're going to add a little bit of glue. I'm going to add a little glue on the peg itself, on all the sides. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of glue right around the lip of this guy. And then right in front on the top part of the peg, so like right here. Double check and make sure your spacing on these panels back here is even, because there is a little bit of play. So, but you just want to make it nice and even. Once you think you have it, add your accelerant. There you have it. One engine assembly completed. Don't cut these off either, because there's plenty of room inside this hole, so we don't have to worry about having to like change the length of these or anything. So there's plenty of room. All right, so let's go ahead and do the other ones. All of our engine assemblies are now complete. So let's go ahead and move on. So we'll set these aside for now, and then we'll move on to the guns, because those are going to be fun to put together because it's very easy. All right, so for the guns, we have our 4 metal barrels, and you're going to have your 4 pieces that look just like this. So really, it's very simple. They're just going to be glued in just like that. It's a nice, perfect fit. And I'd also recommend getting your 100 grit sandpaper. You're also going to need a mixing cup, a stir stick, and a brush, and your 5-minute epoxy. So let's go ahead and sand all of these guys just a little bit. It doesn't require much. You just want to have just the little bases right here. The pegs need to be just kind of just roughed up just a little bit, so that gives the epoxy something to like hold on to. So doesn't take much. All right, there's one. So now that we have those just sanded up, we don't really need this anymore, so I'm gonna set it off to the side. So let's go ahead and mix up a little bit of our 5-minute epoxy. So it doesn't take much. Got our part A and part B. So we're just gonna put a little glob there. Part A. Need a little bit of part B. Let's mix it up. Remember, you have 5 minutes, so try not to rush. We're going to take our time with this.
So I'm going to take my brush, nice good lathered amount on here. I'll take our piece. All right, so now we have one. Let's go ahead and now stick it in the tube. So now just be careful. Wipe up any excess that you have so you don't have it spill out. And then just get it nice and centered on the ring. You should be all set. All right, so that one's good. Let's go ahead and move on to these other ones. All right, so that's pretty much it for that. So now that I have them all done, I'm going to hold them all up in a vertical position. It is, like I said, it's only 5 minutes epoxy, so it doesn't take long for it to cure or get hardened up so we can let go. But I'm going to go ahead and hold this for a few minutes. And then I will see you guys in a few seconds. All right, guys, so I'm going to put these in this little micro vise to kind of let them sit up overnight, so that way they're 100% hard and they don't want to wiggle wobble or anything like that. So I'm going to let that sit and put that off to the side, and we can move on to the next part. All right, guys, let's move on to the next piece, which is going to be the wing mechanism. So for this, you're going to need your wing pieces, wing mechanism pieces. So it should be 2 with little posts coming up, 2 with little recessed pieces, and then a barrel. You're also going to need the rear brick, the front little flange, your wing nut, your washer, and the bolt that goes through it. So you'll see there's a little notch right here. See, there's a little notch on the top. This also has a little notch on the top. Here's a little notch. Every piece has a little notch on the top to indicate the top part of the piece. So let's go ahead and take our bolt. Stick it through here. Once we have our bolt through, you're going to take the, looks like a little piece with the field posts on it. You're going to look for the one that does not have the notches cut out on it. So if you look at the 2, this one has notches cut out. That's where the wire is going to go for the front of the X Wing. So we're going to go with the one that does not have the notches, and that's going to slide towards the back. And you're going to want to line the notch up with the notch of that guy. So that's that position. And then we're going to take the one that doesn't have, of this guy, that doesn't have the notches cut out. And that's going to slide in just like this. It makes an X. So you want to make an X essentially. And then that's going to slide down. So that way your 2 pieces, see, they line up. So if it was, so say if you accidentally had it this way, see, it doesn't want to line up the line. So you want to try and line up these lines. So these are basically just guidelines for you guys. All right, and next you want to take your barrel. The barrel goes in the middle, just like this. And then next is going to be the small one that does not have the post on it. So that's also going to go on next. As you can see, it lines up with these posts. So the little recessed pieces are going to line up with the posts. You also want to make sure your guideline is in line with the back ones too. So, and then your little cutouts are facing towards the front. And then now we do the same thing with this guy. Gets on there just like that. And then next we're going to put this guy on. Then our washer. And our wing nut. So what we're going to do for this is going to make it just easier to glue. Is what we're going to do is I'm going to leave it a little loose right here like this. So that way I can add drops of glue. So I can separate it just enough to where I can put a little drop of glue on the inside of these little recessed pieces on the back and then also on the front right here. So let's go ahead and add our glue. And trust me, this will make it easier gluing it this way. So add our glue here, our glue here. Honestly, if you want, you can even do a little bit at a time, but I'm going to do all of mine at once. So here, here, and basically then you're going to put them back together, just like that. And I'm going to kind of tighten this back up to where it's nice and snug. And then you basically, once it's snug, just adjust your little feet to make sure that they go correctly into the holes. Some of them may not be perfectly in there, so you have to adjust them just a smidge. So they need to pop out just a little bit. And then you can kind of make it nice and snug. So now you don't want to put too much on there because you don't want it glopping out and getting it stuck together. But now, once you have all these guys, put them on in there like that, just kind of let it glue. And what you can do now is I'm going to add a little bit extra glue just around the inside right here of the posts. And then I'm going to hit it with my accelerant. All right, once we have this done, we're going to put that off to the side and let that dry. Okay, guys, let's move on to something fun. So let's grab our pilot and our little R2 unit. So let's take this out. So we'll set the seat off to the side for now. Here's our little R2 unit, or droid unit. So, I mean, he's pretty much, you can just set his head in there. We're going to put him off to the side for now. And then in the baggie with our pilot, there's quite a few little pieces. So we have our pilot body. We have these little guys right here. So these are what's going to go onto the guns, but we'll do those last once we have the full assembly of the X Wing put together, because that way you can know exactly how they go in. So it'll make sense once I show you guys how it works. But save these for later. And then all we have for the rest of the little small pieces, so we have, it's very small. Do my best to show it to you guys. But it looks like a little half moon with like 3 different pegs on it. And there's another one with a little half moon with 2 little pegs on it. So these 2 pieces right here are for your cockpit. They're going to go into the 2 slots, and we'll put that together here in a second. So I'll show you how that works. All right, so we'll put these off to the side. Really all we need for the pilot is his head, the body, his arm, and his hand. We can also put the joystick into his hand if you want. So we'll do that in this section too. And then we have this little guy that's left. This goes for the droid. So we'll put this off to the side. So let's put the pilot together first. So let's take the body, and then we'll take his head. And it's literally going to be a single drop of glue. I'm not going to put too much on there. So just do a little drop of glue. Put it right down on there like that. Boom. All right, now that got his head in, let's go ahead and glue his arm. So it's literally just a drop of glue. Put it in the hole. Some fix. Next, we're going to go ahead and let's go ahead and grab his hand. We're going to put his hand on. So take a drop of glue. So you want to make sure you angle it to where his hand is basically giving himself the thumbs up. You want to make it nice and even, so it's like in a vertical, like when he's holding the joystick, it's going to be nice and vertical. Now for the joystick, let's hold off on putting this in here. What you can do, if you want, you can put it in his hand. Like that. But I think we're going to hold off and wait, and we'll put this into the cockpit next. So put this with your cockpit pieces. And then let's go ahead and let's do our cockpit. So for the cockpit, you see there's a little, you have to put your tweezers kind of through this little hole. Just kind of punch it out. During the molding process, they weren't able to make that a full hole, so they just put it really, really thin. So it's okay. You're just going to put your tweezers through that, and it should just punch out very simply. So these two little pieces right here, the little small thin one, this thin and kind of tall, that's actually going to go in this spot. Maybe hard to see. So there's a little slot right here on the side, the left side of the joystick. So that's where the little thin one's going to go, like this. And you're going to put there's a very unique little knob, essentially, that's going to be facing upwards on the cockpit. So it's going to fit in there just like that. It'll be really hard to see because it's clear, but that's where that one goes. And what we're going to do is actually just add a little dab of glue into the recessed piece right here. One sec. All right, so what we're going to do is add a little dab of glue to the recessed piece right there. Grab our part, and it's going to fit right up in there, just like that. Maybe a little hard to see. You can see the part right there. So that's where that goes. The little short, fat, wide one goes actually right here. So it goes right here where you see there's a kind of like large little recess. He's very tiny. He's got little, it looks like a little hand lever for like doing the engine thrust. So this got a little guy right here. It's going to fit right up in that little recess piece right here. So I'm going to do a drop of glue in there. Like that. Put that little guy in there. All right, there you go. And once it's in, you can see the little handles are kind of facing forward. So that's how we want it to look like he's like full thrusting, essentially. All right, so now that we got that little piece in, so let's go ahead and grab our seat. We're going to put the seat in. So we're going to take a little drop of glue, stick it in the little recessed square back here in the back. And then we're going to drop our seat in. Nice and even, nice and flat. Now take your time and line everything up. So give me 1 sec for it to a little dry. Hit it with some fix if you have some. Now you want to do this after, probably what you should do is wait to do this till after you're done painting everything. So you want to paint this separately. I would recommend painting all this first, and then this is how you're going to assemble it. Because now I'm going to have to unglue this to get this in here. But what we can do is, I'm going to actually just stick this in here for now, and then I'm not going to glue it in because I know I'm going to have to remove him to paint it. And then you want the little knob is going to be facing forward like that. So it should look just like this. And then for now, we're just going to sit him in here. I'm not going to glue him in because, like I said, I want to paint him. The joystick fell out when I was trying to put him in there, so it's okay. What we can do is just put it in after the fact. So you may just have to play around with it a little bit, but there you go. So just kind of put it in. So I'm going to leave it on there for now. Because like I said, I'm going to be taking him out so I can paint him. So if you're not going to paint him, then just go ahead and glue everything in. But since I'm going to be painting him, I'm going to leave this. Actually, I'm going to hold on to this and put it off to the side for now. I'm going to put it back in the bag. So, because I don't want to lose that. So, but we'll got him all done. He's all in there for now. And then we'll just put him off to the side. So now, let's go ahead and grab our astromech. So, he's very simple. Here's a little head. I may just leave it I'm not going to glue his head down, just mainly because one, it'll be easier for painting if I have it separate, and two, since it's going to be kind of sitting on top anyways, it sits in there pretty good, but that way you can turn his head around to whatever way you want. The only thing we are going to glue in is this little piece. So I'm just going to take a little drop of glue, just like that. And then you'll see it's kind of keyed a certain way, and then you just want to just pop it in, just like that. All right, guys, now that we have the astromech done, let's go ahead and move to the wings. So here's how the wings come. So you got your basic wing, and then if you look inside, you'll see there's a little groove for these wing spars. So this is the top right wing. So I'm going to use my top right wing spars, which is maybe a little difficult to see on camera, but you'll have your TRB and your TRF. So that stands for top right front and top right back. So here's your front is going to be, since this is the engine opening, so this one right here will be your front, and then this is the one that's going to be on the back. So the way the front one works is the one that's front will have the channel. So the channel is going to be facing this direction forward towards this detail. And you also want to have the lettering that we have will be kind of outside the wing. So just like this. Honestly, you can't really mix it up. I made it so it's a little hard. You'd see it won't fit on there now, but it only goes technically one way. So same with the back. We'll go in there just like this. And then, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our wire. We're going to pre-wire these to make these a little bit easier for final assembly after you get done painting it. So you got your wire. I gave myself about 11 inches or 28, I believe. Yes, 28 centimeters or 11 inches. So that way I feel like this is enough wire in order to get everything ran like you want. So the way we're going to do this, you're going to take a little bit of your pigtail. So I'm going to give myself about, I don't know, 3 centimeters or 2 inches or 1.5 inches roughly. So you see there's a channel that allows you to run your wire in here. So, and it kind of wraps around. So since this is the front, I'm going to make sure the channel is facing outward. So you see how it goes this way. It only goes a certain direction. So channel out will go this way. So just double check all this before you put it in there. And then that way the wire can now run through this channel just like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to glue these guys in. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to glue in this wire to make it a little bit easier, so make sure it stays in there. So I'm going to add just a couple of drops of glue to the inside of this channel. So I'm going to add a drop of glue, like right here at the tip, kind of one right here in the middle, and then along this little back section right there. So now I'm going to take my wires, like I said, give myself about 3 centimeters or about 1.5 inches to 2 inches, and then I'm just going to run this wire through there just so I have something for it to kind of keep it down, because you don't want this getting in the way whenever you're trying to clamp these two pieces together. So I'm going to just do this. You can even use your tweezers if you want to kind of help make sure that's pushed all the way down. You want this all nice and snug down in this channel. All right. Now, what we need to do is grab our epoxy, because I'm going to epoxy these guys in, because it's going to give us the strongest bond. We have our mixing cup right here, stir stick, and a brush. So I'm going to actually grab a little bit wider brush. So we have a wide brush. So that way it gets down into these grooves a little bit easier. So it doesn't take much. Remember, you have 5 minutes for this. So let's just go ahead and mix this up. Equal parts. I'm going to mix it up. I also took my watch off because it's a little bit easier, because it's kind of getting in the way. Now we're going to take our glue. I'm going to paint it in right in here. Right in this channel. All nice and painted. We'll do this one too. Nice, good lather. Doesn't need a whole lot because this stuff is pretty strong. So now we're going to take, remember, you want the lettering's going to face this top portion, kind of towards the outside of the wing. So see, it goes in just like this. And then I'm going to use my tweezers and kind of help push this wire into the channel, just like that. A bit of glue in the channel just to kind of hold the wire down. Won't take much. So I'll put some here. We'll put some in this corner. Right up here on this top piece. All right, just like that. Our other pin, remember, letters this way. Just like that. So you got a little bit of pigtail sticking out here. This is what's going to connect to your engines. And then you have this pigtail right here, which is going to go and connect into another pigtail that will go into your Arduino. Or it could go into the wire that's coming up from the base. So if you don't plan on using your Arduino. That's looking good. So let's see, how are we looking on this? Okay, still good. So I'm going to go ahead and add glue to the inside of this. And this one. And we're going to sandwich these pieces together. Actually, going to even add some glue in here. So make sure you give yourself enough to kind of add also to the flat part in this section as well. All right. Then it's just going to pop on in just like this. Nice and flush. It's going to help hold everything down. Technically, you can even do the CA glue as like your main. So use the epoxy for your spars, but then on this whole flat piece, it's all big, nice surface area. You can just do CA glue. So actually, let me do that real quick while it's still drying, just to kind of give it a little extra strength. The CA glue works really good gluing these pieces together. Add a little bit of CA glue around this lip as well, like that. There we go. Give it a little bit of nice pressure. Kind of let it sit for, 5 minutes or so for it to cure up. Then we can move on to the next one. All right, so now that that's all glued up, I'm going to move it off to the side and let's do another one. So since that was the top right, let's do the bottom right. So you got BR and BR. And then on your spars are going to be your BFR and your BRB. So maybe really hard to see. I apologize. They're white. But what you can do is what I was doing, just so I can see them a little bit easier, is you just take a little bit of a graphite pencil, kind of just rub it across the top so you can kind of see the lettering a little bit better. So makes it a little bit easier to see. So let's go ahead and same thing. So let's run our wires. Give myself about 3 centimeters to 1.5 inches. Put it through here. Add a little bit of our glue on our wires. Put down into this corner. All right, so now that we got that, let me grab another brush. Double check your pieces before you put them in, so you don't want to accidentally grab the wrong ones, even if, just in case. See, okay, so those fit perfect. So then we're going to take these off. Our glue. paint it in. I get enough on the sides and stuff too. Okay, let's put that guy in like that. Do it to this guy, the front one. Nice good lather going on in there. Put it down. There we go. I think what I may do is actually go ahead and just add our glue right now. It goes inside the channel. Make it a little bit easier for us. That way I can just like that. So now we got our wire run. Let's go ahead, before this gets all nice and hard, take our glue, our epoxy, put it down into the grooves. And we got plenty of time. It takes 5 minutes for it to get hard. So like that. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just put a little bit of this epoxy that's left. There's not much left. I'm gonna put a little bit on the ends, like that. Maybe a little bit right here and here and here. And the rest I'm gonna just do a bunch of CA glue. So right around the slip. Right here. Right. I'll stick it on. And there we have it. So we got our pigtail sticking out. Got our pigtail sticking out here. Get everything all nice and flat and glued down. So now we're just gonna put some nice even pressure on this, and I'll see you guys here in a few minutes. Now that those are all dried up, let's go ahead and do this so you make sure you don't accidentally mix up your wing. So since this is the last one I did, this was the bottom right. So on the inside of the wing right here, I'm just gonna take a pencil, and I'm gonna put BR for bottom right. And since this was the top right, which another way to indicate between top and bottom is the top ones are going to have these channels cut into the body. Whereas if you see the bottom right here, see there's no channel cut in. All the top wings have a channel cut into it. So I'm going to do top right on this guy. So you can see top right. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other two real quick, and we'll be right back. So that wasn't too hard. So I'm going to let these dry and kind of cure off to the side. So remember, we aren't going to be assembling these completely. We're not doing full assembly. We have to. The reason why we're doing that is so that way it's easy to paint, and you assemble after it's all painted. Because if you had like everything all assembled together, it'd be really hard to get around and do all your panel lines and your wing detail and designs that you want to do if you have everything on here already like this. Like, see, that's going to take up a lot of space and make it a little bit harder for you to get around it. So that's the whole purpose of this video, is to prep your model for paint, essentially. And then I'm going to show you kind of how things go together after you get it prepped and it's all painted. So that's kind of the purpose for this. Or that's the reason for this. It'll just make it so much easier to run your panel lines and stuff if you don't have everything put together. So that's why we're doing everything in little groups. I mean, technically, even for this one, if you to do it properly, I shouldn't have glued this guy on. All right, so now that we got our wings all prepped and ready to go, let's grab our top wing, or top right wing, since it's been the longest, it's had the longest time to cure. And I'll show you guys roughly kind of how things go. So since this is a top right or a top wing, you'll have the top will have this like little groove cut into it. So you can see all the bottom wings do not have a groove in them. So here's another bottom wing. So the two bottom wings do not have grooves booleaned or cut into them. So whereas these two top ones do. So that's a good indicator to tell whether you have a top or a bottom. So as far as the engines go, so all of your top engines are going to have this detail right here. It's kind of like the little squiggle detail and like panel. That will indicate that it's a top engine. So what you want to do is, like, I'm not going to go ahead and do this because there's no point in me putting these together, because I'm going to be taking it apart to paint it here in a little while anyways. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to show you kind of basically, so you attach your negative to negative, positive to positive on this for your pigtails. And then you're going to basically just kind of like hide your wire up in this little groove. I've left plenty of room in here, so in case you get super extra amount of pigtail to make it super easy, there's enough room in here for you to be able to hide your wires. So, and then essentially the way this works is very simple. These 4 pegs go into these 4 peg holes. And to give you an idea what that looks like, just like that. And you'll hear a nice little snap. That means it's fitted up, and you'll see that it's nice and flush it'll line up nicely for this top piece. So you'll have a nice clean look. And you can see that's all nice and flush right here. And that's pretty much how the engines go on the wings. So very simple. I tried to make it as easy as possible for assembly. So all that's left to do for this wing, if we were to fully assemble it, is to put on the gun. So let me take one of these guns. So you have your guns right here like this that you put together. Now you can choose to paint these separately, or like what I'm going to do, all my guns are going to be painted as a white base, or kind of the base color. And then I was planning on kind of slowly fading the tips on this, and then doing a little bit of hewing to give it that kind of like burnt end tip, like it's been really hot and firing the lasers. That's kind of the way I'm going to do it. Some people like to leave the metal pieces separate and do it, just have nice metal barrels, which you can do that. It's totally your preference. But so really all the guns are very similar. So you see there's a little channel for the gun, and all it does is just fit perfectly into this little channel, and it gets glued in just like this. See? Then it has a little place for it to rest on the inside right here. But it is nice, simple. There's not much wiggle to it, so it's a nice clean fit. And then what you can do, so after you have your gun glued on like this, so you take your little detail pieces. I was talking about those earlier. And then the little nubs, the side that has the nubs, those are going to face outwards. And you're going to take that, and that's going to slide on to your little gun. And then this little piece is going to run parallel to the table. So see, it's out nice and flat. So that's how these are you're going to do your best to kind of make it all nice and flat. And that's how it's going to glue on. So that way it'll be, whenever it's in its closed wing formation, it'll be nice and parallel to the bottom one as well. But since I'm not going to be gluing this all together right now, I want to leave these off for now. Put this off to the side with the others. And let's move on to the hull. So I'm going to move all this off to the side, and I'll see you guys in a second, and we'll put the hull together. All right, guys, so this is kind of basically what you're going to need for the main hull. So you have your lower hull, your upper hull A, and your upper hull B. Then you have your back cap. And then you're also going to have your wing mechanism. So this gets glued in, as you can see, just like this. It's going to fit into these slots. So the reason why we're going to put this in first is because it makes everything go in a lot easier whenever you're doing the final assembly. Because whenever you're painting your hull, it's going to be easier to paint the hull as a single unit versus individual pieces. So like this. Now that we have all of our pieces out, all right, so we're going to go ahead and start by adding the 1/4-20. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to glue this in facing down. So we have your cap essentially is going to be on the inside. So you'll have sticking out the bottom is this really nice little clean pin. And then as you can see, we included a side hole for you to run your wires out of. Let's go ahead and mix up some epoxy. All right. So it doesn't take much because it's honestly not that much surface area. We just want to kind of coat it just enough so that way it has a nice solid connection. Really, I'm just going to paint right here around the little threads. Doesn't take much. And kind of right here on the top of the inside of this guy. All right, I'm going to stick that in there. Like that. And then double check the bottom. Make sure you don't have any gooping out the bottom because you don't want to ruin that nice little bit of detail right there. All right, now that we're going to let that glue up and kind of just, I'm not going to touch it. So now let's move on to the wing mech. So here's the wing mechanism. It's all nice and glued up from before. And what we're going to do is, so you make sure these are all nice and lined up. So you have your little line right here is lined up with these guys, which is lined up with this, which is lined up the front piece. So a nice clean line going all the way through. That means you know that it's dead centered and they're all in the correct orientation. So we're going to take our CA glue and put a nice good amount in this channel. And then we're going to do same with back here. So on this back piece, I'm going to do it on the back panel as well as like these sides. That should be all you need. So I'm going to head, and this is going to slide in there perfectly. Should be a nice, perfect fit. The back has got a little bit of wiggle room, but just try and do your best to make it even as possible. All right, and there we have it. The way this will work is, as you can see, so once you put the front piece in, you're going to put the nose in first, and then it's going to want to drop down here. So the way we designed it is so that way if you have your cockpit basically is just going to free float in here and sit in there. So you don't really need to glue that down. You can if you want, but then you'd never be able to move your wings. So you basically leave your cockpit in, and then that way you can still get to your wing nut. So if you want to actually, if you can see here, so you can still see your wing nut. So that way you can open and close your wings however you want. Now that we have that in there, as you can see, and then we can just do a dry fit on this stuff. This is all going to fit on here perfectly nice and kind of center everything. What I'm going to do is we're going to do the whole A part first. So take this off. We're going to add our CA glue to the, what you call it, the nose. Little nose bump, nose key. So I'm going to put a nice, decent amount in there. And then I'm also going to run it all along the flat piece right here. I'll do some right here in the back. A little overzealous. Do a little bit over here. But that's going to get, that all touches the lower hull. So you want this to be a nice, solid seam. So I'll go ahead and do a decent amount on all of this. And then you're going to put the nose in first and drop it down. So now what I'm going to do to kind of help make sure I keep it centered is I'm going to put this back on for now, not glue it down yet. But the back has a little key to kind of help center this onto the model. So now what I'm going to do is hold it, and then I can go and run my fingers along the edge just to make sure there's no seepage of glue coming out. Just like this. So you see, it helps center it. This will keep everything all nice and neat for final assembly. And there you have it. So here is the front glued onto the whole thing. All right, now that it's all dry, let's go ahead and add the back. So let's move this guy off to the side. I don't need him at the moment. So the way this connects, this is a connection point right here. And then you have a connection point down here. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue on either side of these and on these pegs. And then I'm also going to put a little bit of glue right here along this piece right here on the main hull. So do some on the pegs and around the pegs. And right here along this lip. just like that. And then it's just going to kind of slide on over. So just like that. So now we're just going to kind of get it all nice and even. Make sure everything's all perfectly even. There's a little bit of play, but not much. And then we're going to let it dry. So because it's all set. And then what I'm using to kind of help with the evenness is right here. There's a little bit of a gap on either side. I'm just trying to make sure those are even. So that helped me get it even, and I pressed everything kind of forward. So that should make it all super simple. You can also check your gaps right here on the sides. Make sure those are even. So that's what you want to look for when I'm talking about even. Is right here on the sides and right here on the front. So you have even this way and then even. So even this way and then even this way. So there's not much of a wiggle, but there is a little bit of a wiggle just due to the process of the model shrinking a little bit out of the molds once it cures. Now that that's all nice and hard and put together, you can see where we're at. Looking pretty good. All we have to do now, we're going to add this back cover because all it is just a cap just to kind of make sure this is all cleaned up. What I'm going to do for this is I'm going to put a nice good dollop on here on this inside bit. So I mean, you can be a little liberal with your glue on this inside part. And then right here around the edge. I'm not going to go all the way to the edge because you don't want it gooping out and ruining that seam, but I'm going to, a decent amount, pretty close. So about like this. And then we're going to put this on here. And what you want to do is you want to try and line up these lines on the side. So you see here's these lines right here. You line those guys up just like that. But yeah, so just kind of hold it there. Do your best to I'm using my fingers and my thumb and middle finger to kind of make sure it's even horizontally. Now that I got it the way I want it vertically, I'm kind of just going to hold it there until the C8 glue dries. And there we have it. All nice and glued on. So it's okay if this part right here, so this part isn't supposed to come flush. So you're going to have a little bit of an overhang lip right here because that way the detail fits better there. So, but that is the hull. The hull is complete and ready to go. So we set that off to the side and we're going to grab our little vise because we're about to do some drilling. So we're going to be drilling the holes for the wires. So you're going to need the top. We're going to need your bar for your pole. You're going to need your top piece and your bottom piece at the moment, and a pencil. All right, so the way we're going to do this is we're going to screw on the bottom and the top, just so we can see where we want to put our holes. So, because the bottom goes into the base itself, and then the top is what's going to attach to the quarter 20. So, this comes with like a little flat piece. You don't really need this. I mean, technically you can leave it on if you want to give it a little bit more of a softer touch to the bottom, but I'm not going to put mine on there. So I'm going to remove this guy from mine. So that way you get a nice clean, super tiny little adjuster. So now that this is all kind of nicely snug, let's see. So I think I'm going to make this little hinge. I'm going to put this towards the front of the fuselage, kind of like this. So that way, if I wanted to have it in in a flight mode, I have this back piece right there. So that means this is going to be the back of the vehicle. So if we flip it over this side, I'm going to mark just a little bit below this piece to drill my hole for the wire to go into right there. And then I'm going to bring it back out through the same side on the bottom, like just a little bit above. So as you can see, so I put a little mark here, and I put a little mark right there. Maybe hard to see. There you go. So mark there and mark here. Now that we have that done, we can take it off. And then I'm going to grab my vise. It helps if you have a drill press. I don't have a drill press here at the studio. If you have a drill press, definitely use a drill press. Otherwise, we're going to grab our 3.5 mil drill, and we're going to drill these in. So it's going to just take your time. Doesn't take much pressure. So let's get that one started. Let's do this one too. See if I can angle this for you guys a little bit better. There we go. There's one. And there's two. All right. All right, there we go, guys. Holes are drilled from top and bottom. So, wasn't too hard. It's aluminum, so it's easy to drill. It also helps if you have a drill that has a lot more battery. So I'll set that off to the side. And then I'm going to go ahead and connect this to the base. And then what I'm going to do, so if you have, like I said, if you have your extra wires, let's go ahead and grab them. So I'm going to give myself an additional 18 inches of wire, or 46 centimeters. So, and this is 30 gauge silicone, just for you guys that want to know. So you can get these on Amazon for really cheap. So got 18 inches of red and black. And then I'm just going to go ahead and push this all the way through to where it starts to come out the bottom, just like this. And if you want, actually before it hits the bottom, once you pull it out a little bit like this, and we're going to take our tweezers and then reach in and pull it out. There's one. And two. So there's it coming out the bottom. Now we got to do basically the same thing for the top. So get it to where it's, a little bit sticking out like that, so it's easier to pull through. I'm giving myself about an inch. And then you can reach in. Let's do one at a time. Boop. And the other one. Just like that. All right, now for this, I'm going to give myself, so what's going to go up into the cockpit right here, I'm going to give myself maybe 8 inches or so. So I mean, honestly, down here, you can honestly give yourself even more than that, because so this is going to come up through the bottom right here. And if you do the Arduino route, your Arduino is going to live basically in this front nose cone area. But yeah, so that's it for this guy. Let's go ahead and we'll install this guy into the base. All right, so here's our base. It's got the plug on back and got the on-off button right here. So if we flip it over, oh, you can also see the hole. You can also see the hole. So that's what the pole is going to stick out of. So let's go ahead and flip this over. And we're going to take our Phillips head and unscrew the base. So let's go these 4 little screws, very simple. Then I'm going to use my tweezers and pull this out. So, as you can see, here's the inside of your base. So, in here, you'll see you'll have your connector. I don't know which one's positive and negative yet. I'm going to have to test that whenever I get to the process of turning everything on to see how it all works. Or you can just do an LED. If you have an extra LED, you can just test it that way. That already has for a 12-volt receiver. That's kind of the easiest way to test which one's positive and which one's negative. And then you can then see, just mark on it with like a marker, which one's which. So I'm going to take my piece. I'm going to feed the wires through the hole. I'm going to feed this through the hole. It's a tight fit. But there you have it. So now that it fits in there, it's a nice tight fit. We can set it up against that, put it down. We'll connect the power wires later. I just want to make it sure I can get to it. But it should be a nice sturdy fit like that. if you want, why don't we go ahead, actually, let's just go ahead and close this up for now. And we can always take it back whenever you're ready to connect your power, or then close this back up. Because luckily it's just a screwdriver. All right, so there we go. It's gonna be nice and sturdy. It's not gonna wiggle around that much. Once you connect your wires and stuff, you can even tape your wires down so that way they don't accidentally get underneath your base and won't want to wiggle around much more. That is how the base goes together. Now that that is done, there's really not much left other than I want to show you how this kind of all goes together. So let's set this guy off to the side for now. Bring this over here. So let me show you again how this works. So the way we design the cockpit is though the cockpit is removable. You don't, it just sits in there nicely like that, and then you can put on your cover. See? Because you don't want to have this glued in. Otherwise, if you have it glued in, you won't be able to get to your wing nut to be able to adjust your wings up and down for the scissor action. So I recommend not gluing that guy in. Plus, it also makes it a little bit easier if you want to get to your Arduino and do any tweaks, or if you want to do what I want to do and add all the fiber optics to this and make it like super crazy. It makes it easier to be able to pull the Arduino out and do all your pinning for those guys. Essentially, this guy goes in there like that, and then this sits on there like this. So, and that is the completed fuselage. So very, very nice. I'm really happy with the way that turned out. The fitment is fantastic on all this. So we'll set this off to the side, and let me show you guys, this is what people are going to have the most kind of, I apologize, it's a little bit more difficult to do, but it's adding these covers in. So we're leaving them off while you paint them because, or at least I'm going to, because I want to add all the like scratches and details of stuff as if to give it that real nice mechanism feel, like it's actually getting scraped and moved around with this as the wings open and close, like it's heavily used. So I'm going to have it all greasy looking and scratched up for my particular piece. But it's not too hard to do. So let's go ahead, now that the wings are kind of cured and dried, let's go ahead and I'll do one side for you guys to show you how to do it. So since this is the left side, let's grab our top left wing and our bottom left wing, just like this. The bottom left wing, this detail is going to face down. So, because the way that it's designed is the two flat pieces are going to be in there like this. So you have the two flat sides are going to be a nice perfect fit to each other like this. So, and then you have your two wires going to be coming out this front two pieces. So the best way to do it, let's do the bottom first. Make sure you grab your BLA. That's the bottom left A, the BLB. See, these two go together, BLA and BLB. And then you can kind of see how they fit. So they basically, if you put them side by side, they want to go over and under on these other pieces. So this overhang is going to be over the other piece. So you get a nice clean piece like this. We have our BLA right there, and then we have our FLA. So the BLA stands for back, left, A and B. Then you have the other one, which is the FLB and FLA. So your FLB and FLA stands for front, left, A and B. I know it's a little confusing, but that's the only way I could think of whenever I was trying to label these on which ones go where, because they are very specific. Because the cutout on these wings, remember I told you about these cutouts right here? So the cutout on this matches these pieces right here. So this is a perfect cutout for the detail right here. So if I put the wires through here, I'll show you guys real quick. So if we put our wires through this guy, you can see it gets keyed in essentially right here, and it does not want to move. It is a perfect fit. So it doesn't want to move in any direction. So it's a perfect fit. The best way to do this, like I said, So you have your A and B. So the bottom one is going to be your A. So all the both A's are going to be the bottom one. See, here's the other one. See, this is the perfect fit for this one. Pull these guys off for a sec. And the easiest way to do it is to kind of angle it a little bit. And that's going to be a little hard. And then you're going to kind of want to fit this in there like that. So you're going to have to hold it. Slide this guy on. It at least makes it a little bit easier to hold because it has the extra piece. But you have to kind of angle this guy in there a little bit because it's a perfect fit inside there. So pardon. Get this. This is the only one of the only hard parts in this whole thing to get this to work. There we go. So trickiest way to do it. So that way, to put them in here first, then you can kind of like center. That's what I'm saying. We're going to do this one first. That's why we're doing the bottom first. So you kind of center these how you want them to be. So kind of like have them kind of centered in the hole, just like that. So that way it's easier to hold it on the side like it is, like this. Now we can take our wires, run them through the hole. And if you want to add a little bit of glue right there, you can. They are pretty much a perfect fit. So you technically could glue these on, like put a little dab of glue on each one of these little pillars, the little receivers sticking out, and then that way you can kind of just glue it and just center it on the hole like that. But I'm not going to, like I said, because I am doing this because I'm going to leave it all separate because I want to paint it. But if you're doing this as your final assembly, then you can go ahead and do that. But since I'm just trying to show you guys how to do this. So basically feed your wires. Just like this. And then this piston's going to go right into the correct hole. So it fits on there just like that. There we go. As you can see now, so it's going to fit there in there perfectly, just like that. So it's like a perfect fit. So now to do the top, it's going to be a little trickier because you're going to want to slide this guy, let's see, back. So this guy is going to want to slide down like this. You put that in there like that. So see the shutter essentially. See, it's going to want to slide down. You need to angle that piece down in, and then you're going to pull it back up to expose the pin. See, and it should look like a perfect match. So the shutters themselves will have a perfect line like that. So let's do this guy too. Just be very gentle with it. You can even pull it out if you need. All right, so you have it like that. Then you want to do your top. So you're going to feed your top in. So this is going to be the hardest part, like I said. So I apologize in advance, but this is the only way I could think about to give us these nice clean shutters. So we added these. The hard part's going to be running these wires. It'll be much easier once you have these kind of like glued in. So there we go. Sorry, it's hard to do this on camera. Right, come on, wires. Pull the wires. All right, and then now we got our top wing. So just like that. So that's how the wings go. So now I'll show you. Let me loosen up the wing nut. Of course, then you'll get them all. You want to probably epoxy those in to get it all nice and even. But so if I loosen up the wing nut just a smidge, then we can open our wings. If you have all the wings together as one piece, then it works a lot nicer. Because then you can just, it's easier to just fold them up and close them at the same time because everything's all glued in. But these will fit up there just like that, and then you'll fit up there like that. Once you get this guy glued in, it'll fit a little bit nicer. But then as you can see, the space is now filled with the riveted banding. So, and it's just a nice, perfect, clean fit for the wings. So, that's pretty much, I'm not going to show you the other side because it's exactly the same thing. And like I said, these aren't going to be glued on just yet. But that's how you attach the wings. I know it's a little hard, or it seems like it's going to be a little hard, but just do a lot of dry fitting first so you can figure out how that works. Just be careful. You don't want to break these little guys because they can break if you twist on it too hard. So, and as you can see here, I'll show you those sides. So here's the wing mech in its open configuration on this side. But yeah, let's see. So then we can close it. Then when you close it, it also covers the top and bottom holes. So that's the way I designed them. So they get nice, clean, even wings as well. So with everything fitted up nicely in there. So it should be a perfect fit. I mean, that's pretty much it for the way that these go in. So like I said, I'm going to leave these apart because I'm going to glue them in later after I get it all painted up. So let's grab the other wings. So the way I recommend doing this, and you can do it differently if you want for your wiring. But for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, since I'm using the Arduino, I'm going to take all these wires and then put them into a pigtail. So I only have to worry about 2 wires going to the Arduino. So, and that way the wires coming out of the base here, these 2 wires will go up to the Arduino. For the positive will go to your VIN. And then across from the VIN, over here on this side next to the D2 pin, is where you're going to put your grounds. So that's where you'll ground everything out. The way I'm going to do the code, I'm going to just do a basic code similar to like what we did with the blockade runner, is the D pin, D9 pin is what's going to run the power to these guys. And it's going to have a similar animation. For the cockpit, I'm probably going to have a basic glow come up for the D10, just to kind of come on at first. So there'll be the glow up for the cockpit will glow up on first. And then since I am planning on doing, for my particular build, I plan on doing some of the fiber optics, kind of like Chris did from Rogue One 6. I really like the way he did that, and it looks fantastic. And made me very jealous that I didn't have that done on mine, or wasn't planning on doing that for mine. So I'm going to do it now because I really want to learn how to do that. I'm going to figure out which pins I need for that, and I'll if I get it done and I write the code, I'll make it available for you guys. But other than that, I'll give you the code to just plug in and wire up your Arduino with just the standard fade up for the cockpit. If you just want to have a single LED in here to kind of have it glow up, and then your engine detail to give that kind of fire effect. If not, if you don't want to do any of that, you just want to do just a simple, power on by hitting the button right here and this will glow, then you just run all your positive and negatives wires into this guy. You'll be all set. So yeah, that's about it. All right, guys, here it is. Everything is all set and ready to go for us to paint it. So good luck on your build. Have fun painting it. And I hope that was enough to help figure out how, once you're done painting it, it'll do a nice final assembly. So eventually when I do get this fully painted out, I'll probably put out another video of us actually finally putting everything together. But that may be a couple months from now, just due to how busy we are. But have fun, take your time, enjoy building this, because it's actually a pretty fun build. Even though there are a couple of difficult parts with like the inside pieces, just take your time. And I hope to see you guys on the next one. Happy holidays, and we'll catch you later. Bye.